The stars had never looked so alien to Alex. He stared through the cracked viewport of his small spaceship, the Artemis, as a storm of cosmic energy raged outside. The bright arcs of electricity danced across the dark expanse, crackling like a warning he could not ignore. He had been traveling through uncharted space for weeks, charting planets and examining strange signals, but nothing had prepared him for this. A sudden jolt shook the ship violently. Alarms blared, lights flickered, and a loud metallic screech echoed through the cabin. Alex grabbed the control panel, trying to stabilize the ship. "Hold together, Artemis," he muttered to himself, teeth clenched. The instruments flashed red. Critical damage warnings lit up everywhere. A panel popped off and sparks shot out like tiny fireworks. The storm outside grew stronger. He had to make a decision fast. There was a planet below, unknown and unmapped. Alex's heart pounded as he initiated an emergency landing. The ship trembled violently as it descended, scraping through the upper atmosphere. Fire streaked along the hull, and for a terrifying moment it seemed like the Artemis would not survive. Then, with a deafening crash, the ship hit the surface. Dust and debris filled the air. Alex coughed, his chest pressed against the control panel. The Artemis was damaged but still intact. He pushed himself up, checking his limbs for injuries. Nothing broken, just bruises and a headache. He exhaled slowly. Survival was his first thought. Repair second. The planet around him was unlike anything he had seen. The sky was a deep violet streaked with swirling orange clouds. Enormous plants towered above him, their leaves shimmering faintly in the dim light. Rivers of what looked like liquid crystal flowed lazily across the land, reflecting the sky's strange colors. Floating rocks drifted above the ground as if the planet itself were bending reality. Alex stepped out carefully, feeling the soft, spongy ground beneath his boots. The air was breathable, though it carried a faint metallic tang. He sniffed cautiously, noting the oxygen was thin but sufficient. Survival, yes, but this planet was alive in ways he had never imagined. A rustle in the nearby brush caught his attention. He froze, scanning the alien landscape. Then from between the giant plants a figure emerged. At first he thought it was another kind of animal, but as the figure moved closer he saw her clearly. A young alien woman. Her skin was smooth with a natural, soft glow. Her hair shimmered with subtle hues and her eyes were large, reflecting curiosity and caution. She moved with a grace that seemed almost unnatural, a quiet awareness of her surroundings. Lyra, as he would later learn her name, stopped a few meters away, eyeing him warily. She made a soft sound, a mix of caution and question. Alex raised his hand slowly, showing he meant no harm. "Come in peace," he said, unsure if she could understand him. She tilted her head, studying him, her expression unreadable. Alex noticed a small wound on her arm, a thin line of crimson. Without thinking, he grabbed a clean cloth from his pack and stepped forward. "Let me help," he said gently, trying to show care without threatening her. Lyra hesitated, then slowly extended her arm. Alex cleaned the wound and pressed a makeshift bandage over it. Her eyes softened slightly. She let out a sound that could have been a laugh or a sigh. For a moment, they simply watched each other. The storm that had driven Alex here seemed distant now, replaced by an unspoken understanding. Communication was difficult. Her language was unknown, but trust was forming, fragile yet present. They moved away from the crash site together, Alex carrying what supplies he could salvage. Lyra led him to a small clearing surrounded by massive ferns and twisting vines. There, he realized, the planet was dangerous. Strange footprints marred the ground, and Alex could sense movement all around, subtle and quick. Predators, perhaps, or creatures he could not yet imagine. Survival meant understanding the rules of this new world. Alex began to examine the environment carefully. He collected samples of the water from the crystal-like river. Surprisingly, it was drinkable, though bitter. He ate some fruit from a low-hanging plant, noting it was safe. Lyra watched him closely, then pointed to a cluster of fruit higher in the trees. Using a fallen branch, Alex retrieved it and offered her some. She accepted, eating with cautious appreciation. Hours passed. The sky began to darken, streaks of red and orange blending into violet night. Alex realized they needed shelter. The ship was too damaged to provide long-term protection, and the storm could return. Lyra led him deeper into the forest, to a natural formation of rocks that formed a cave-like structure. It was small but safe enough for the night. Inside, Alex used scraps from the ship to create basic tools, small lights, a fire starter, and a crude filtration device. Lyra watched his movements, fascinated, occasionally pointing to objects she recognized. Slowly, a system of communication began to develop. Gestures, drawings in the dirt, and repeated words helped them understand each other. Trust was growing into something stronger, a partnership built on necessity and mutual respect. The night was filled with strange sounds, distant roars, rustling in the underbrush, and the soft whisper of wind through the alien plants. Alex could not sleep completely. Survival instincts were still on high alert. He checked their surroundings repeatedly, setting small traps and signals in case predators approached. Lyra seemed comfortable near him, occasionally reaching out to adjust a tool or share knowledge of the environment. By dawn, the world looked entirely different. Mist rose from the crystal rivers, giving the landscape a magical, almost surreal quality. Lyra led him to a place where the ground was dotted with luminous stones, which she called shelters of light. These were natural formations that gave warmth and protection. Alex marveled at her understanding of the planet. He realized that no matter how much engineering skill he had, Lyra's instinct and knowledge were just as crucial. They spent the day exploring, searching for food, and observing the land. Alex began documenting the plants, the wildlife, and even the peculiar floating rocks. He could see patterns and possibilities for survival, but the planet was vast and danger seemed ever present. At one point, a large creature with multiple eyes and long tendrils emerged from the river. Alex froze, heart pounding, but Lyra gestured for him to remain still. The creature passed by, uninterested in them. Alex exhaled slowly, realizing how much he still had to learn. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in streaks of purple and red, Alex and Lyra returned to their cave. He repaired a small part of the ship, hoping to eventually send a signal, but it would take time. Lyra showed him edible roots and how to purify water using heat from stones. The human and alien worked together side by side, each learning from the other. Before sleeping, Alex looked at Lyra and thought about how different this world was. Yet, despite the danger and uncertainty, he felt a spark of hope. Humanity's ingenuity had carried him here, and now, combined with Lyra's natural abilities, survival seemed possible. Together, they were a team, two beings from entirely different worlds, learning to depend on each other in a place where one wrong step could mean the end. For the first time since the crash, Alex allowed himself to relax slightly. He did not know what tomorrow would bring, but he knew that with Lyra's guidance and his skills, they had a chance. The alien world was hostile, strange, and magnificent all at once. And in its vast, dangerous beauty, a human engineer and an alien woman began a story of survival, trust, and perhaps something deeper, something neither of them fully understood yet. The next morning, the alien world seemed to breathe around Alex and Lyra. Mist curled over the crystal rivers, and distant creatures moved silently among the towering plants. The sky was a soft violet, streaked with orange and pink, hinting at the strange beauty of this place. Alex awoke in the cave, stretching and rubbing the soreness from his muscles. The night had been relatively calm, but he knew that peace was temporary. Lyra was already awake, standing near the entrance of the cave. She had collected water in a hollowed plant stem and was arranging edible roots and fruits she had found. Her movements were careful and precise, as if every step mattered in this strange ecosystem. Alex watched her, impressed by how effortlessly she adapted to the dangers and wonders of her world. "Good morning," he said softly, attempting the words in a friendly tone. Lyra responded with a gentle sound, tilting her head. Alex had learned that tone and gestures were as important as words here. Small signs of understanding were growing between them. After breakfast, they decided to explore further from the cave. Alex carried a small backpack with supplies salvaged from the Artemis, including tools, a map of the immediate area he had sketched, and a water filtration device. Lyra walked slightly ahead, scanning the environment. Her instincts were precise. She paused often, alert to sounds and movement that Alex could not yet perceive. They discovered a shallow river, its waters glowing faintly from the crystals within. Alex tested it carefully, using his filtration system. The water was safe and surprisingly refreshing. Lyra gestured for him to drink first, then followed. As they drank, Alex marveled at the strange harmony of this world. Beauty intertwined with danger. While exploring, Alex noticed unusual tracks along the riverbank. They were large, with 3 toes ending in sharp points. He crouched to examine them. "Predators," he said, pointing to the marks. Lyra crouched beside him, her eyes scanning the surroundings. She made a soft warning sound and gestured for him to follow her into denser foliage. The two of them moved carefully, weaving through massive plants and twisted vines. Alex admired Lyra's skill in moving silently, almost as if she were part of the forest itself. He realized that survival here would depend on both human ingenuity and Lyra's instinct. Suddenly, a rustle in the bushes made them freeze. A creature emerged, taller than a human, with elongated limbs and glowing eyes. It sniffed the air, then hissed softly. Alex's heart raced, but he did not panic. He pulled a small device from his backpack, a makeshift flare designed to distract creatures. He aimed it carefully, and the bright flare shot into the sky. The creature recoiled, startled, then fled into the underbrush. Lyra exhaled slowly, placing a hand on Alex's shoulder. "Good thinking," she said through a gesture that mimicked the sound she made. Alex nodded, realizing that their teamwork was becoming instinctive. They had faced danger together, and trust was growing stronger. By midday, they reached a clearing dominated by enormous trees whose trunks glowed faintly in the violet light. The area seemed peaceful, but Alex knew better than to trust appearances. Lyra led him to a cluster of rocks that formed a natural shelter. She showed him how to use vines and leaves to create simple barriers, offering protection from both wind and creatures. Alex worked alongside her, using scraps of metal from the Artemis to reinforce the shelter. Together they built a rudimentary wall, sturdy enough to provide safety while they slept. As they worked, Alex talked quietly about his world, Earth, his work as an engineer, and his life among humans. Lyra listened, occasionally tilting her head, sometimes mimicking gestures she thought he had taught her. Words were limited, but understanding grew in shared moments. After finishing the shelter, Alex noticed dark clouds gathering overhead. Another storm, this one even more intense than before, was approaching. Lyra gestured for him to prepare. He set up a small water collection system using leaves and rocks to catch the rain. Lyra gathered vines and layered them over the shelter, improving its stability. The two of them worked silently but efficiently, a rhythm forming between human and alien. As the storm hit, wind and rain battered the shelter. The cave's walls shivered under the force of the storm, but their reinforced barrier held. Alex sat against the wall, checking the tools and devices he had brought, making small adjustments to prevent damage. Lyra crouched beside him, her eyes fixed on the storm outside. In the silence, they shared a moment of quiet companionship, two beings alone on a world that seemed determined to challenge them at every turn. When the storm passed, the planet was transformed. Water ran in new streams and the air smelled fresh and metallic. Alex emerged from the shelter to survey the damage. Some supplies had been washed away, but nothing critical was lost. Lyra followed, her expression calm yet alert. Together they began to clean up and reorganize. They decided to explore further, hoping to find more reliable food sources and perhaps a clue about the planet's inhabitants. Lyra led the way to a rocky outcrop that overlooked a valley filled with unusual flora. Alex marveled at the sight. The trees shimmered with shifting colors and strange creatures moved in the shadows below. He realized that survival here would be as much about observation as action. While surveying the valley, Alex noticed signs of another civilization, strange markings on rocks, perhaps symbols or messages left long ago. Lyra examined them with intense interest, pointing to shapes and lines he could not interpret. She made a sound that suggested caution, as if warning him that not all signals were safe. Alex took notes, sketching the symbols carefully. As night fell, they returned to their shelter, exhausted but alive. Alex cooked a simple meal using edible plants and water, and Lyra helped prepare the food, showing him techniques that minimized waste. They ate in silence, comforted by the shared routine. Afterward, they sat near a small fire, the glow illuminating their faces. Alex realized how much he relied on Lyra, not just for survival but for companionship in this alien world. Sleep came slowly. Alex lay on a makeshift bed of leaves and soft plants, thinking about the next steps. The Artemis was still damaged and rescue was uncertain. Yet in Lyra's presence he felt a renewed sense of hope. They had survived one day, and perhaps tomorrow they could survive another, stronger and wiser. The following morning brought new challenges. As they ventured deeper into the forest, the terrain grew treacherous. Thick vines clung to their legs and the ground became uneven and slippery. Alex used a small grappling hook to navigate difficult sections, while Lyra leapt gracefully from rock to rock, demonstrating her planet's natural agility. They came across a river wider and faster than the one before. Alex examined it carefully. "We need a way across," he said, scanning for materials. Lyra pointed to a fallen tree upstream. Together they rolled it into the water, creating a makeshift bridge. Alex tested it first, careful with every step. Lyra followed, balancing expertly. On the other side, they breathed a sigh of relief. Each challenge they overcame seemed to strengthen the bond between them. As they explored, Alex found himself learning more than he had expected. Lyra's instincts, knowledge of plants, and understanding of predators were invaluable. She in turn watched him manipulate tools and improvise solutions. Together they became a team, a combination of human creativity and alien instinct. Late in the afternoon, they discovered a cluster of glowing stones embedded in the ground. Lyra gestured for Alex to examine them. Using his tools, he tested the stones and found they emitted a mild energy, perhaps useful for future devices. Lyra's eyes lit up with recognition, suggesting these stones were valuable for her people. Alex realized that their survival might not just depend on food and water, but on understanding the resources this world offered. As the day ended, they returned to their shelter, weary but determined. They prepared for another night, reinforcing their barriers and checking traps for small creatures that might wander too close. Alex reflected on the day's events. Every step, every decision, and every moment of trust had brought them closer to survival and closer to understanding one another. Before sleep, Alex and Lyra sat quietly, watching the alien sky. Stars twinkled above, different from the ones he had left behind, but beautiful in their own way. He realized that this world, dangerous as it was, held lessons and experiences he could not have imagined. Survival would require courage, ingenuity, and partnership, and perhaps in the most unexpected way, it was also teaching him about friendship, respect, and trust across worlds. Tomorrow, they would continue exploring, seeking food, shelter, and clues about the planet's mysteries. But tonight, for the first time since the crash, Alex felt a glimmer of hope. They were not alone. Together, human and alien, they had survived one more day on a world that seemed determined to challenge them. And in that survival, they were finding a connection neither could have predicted, a beginning of something greater than fear or uncertainty. The day began with a soft violet dawn, the light filtering through towering alien trees and bathing the forest floor in gentle hues. Alex and Lyra stood at the edge of a steep cliff overlooking a wide valley. The view was breathtaking, but Alex's attention was drawn to the strange structures scattered across the landscape. They were remnants of an ancient civilization, tall, angular buildings partially collapsed yet strangely symmetrical. Symbols carved into stone glowed faintly, pulsing like the heartbeat of the planet itself. "This is incredible," Alex whispered, his eyes scanning the ruins. Lyra made a sound that conveyed caution, pointing to the symbols etched along the rocks. She gestured for him to move slowly and observe carefully. Alex nodded, realizing that this world was more complex than he had imagined. These ruins could hold resources, knowledge, or dangers beyond comprehension. They made their way down a natural slope, stepping carefully over vines and jagged rocks. The valley was filled with strange plants, some that hummed with energy, others that seemed to shift slightly when observed. Lyra led him to a structure that appeared partially intact. Its walls were carved with intricate symbols, and a faint light seemed to emanate from deep inside. Alex examined the entrance. "It's stable," he said, testing the stones with a tool he had salvaged from the Artemis. "We should go in, but carefully." Lyra nodded, her eyes alert, scanning for movement. Together they stepped inside, entering a chamber filled with strange machinery. Though most of it was dormant, wires and circuits ran along the walls, pulsing faintly. Alex's heart raced. He had never seen technology like this before. He approached a control panel, brushing away dust and debris. Symbols glowed faintly as his fingers hovered above them. Tentatively, he pressed a sequence of buttons, testing the system. A holographic map flickered to life, showing the valley, nearby forests, and distant mountains. It also indicated points of energy, perhaps sources of power for the ancient civilization. Lyra made a sound of excitement, pointing to one of the glowing points. Alex realized that these locations might provide resources that could help them survive or repair the Artemis. Suddenly, a low rumble echoed through the ruins. Alex froze, eyes wide. "Did you hear that?" he whispered. Lyra nodded, crouching and signaling him to follow her. They moved deeper into the chamber, finding a narrow passage that led to a secondary room. The rumbling grew louder, vibrations traveling through the stone floor. Alex glanced back at the entrance. They had no way out if something dangerous appeared. A shadow moved along the walls. Alex's heart pounded as he realized they were not alone. From the darkness emerged a creature, taller than a human, with multiple limbs and eyes that reflected the faint light. It hissed, a sound that vibrated through the chamber. Alex grabbed a small flare from his backpack, lighting it and tossing it toward the creature. The bright light startled it, causing it to retreat into a side tunnel. Lyra exhaled, placing a hand on his arm. Together, they decided to move forward carefully, knowing that exploration would be risky but potentially rewarding. In the next chamber, Alex discovered a crystalline structure embedded in the floor. The stone pulsed with energy, and he realized it was the source of power indicated on the holographic map. "This could be useful," he said, examining the crystal. Lyra touched it gently, her eyes widening in recognition. She gestured for him to be careful, suggesting that the crystal held significance beyond simple energy. Alex nodded, carefully removing a small fragment using his tools. As they explored further, Alex pieced together clues about the ancient civilization. The walls depicted scenes of life, technology, and connection to the planet itself. Lyra seemed fascinated, pointing to symbols and mimicking gestures, as if recalling distant knowledge passed down from her ancestors. Alex realized that this world had once been home to intelligent beings, and remnants of their technology could aid their survival if they understood how to use it. After hours of exploration, they emerged from the ruins carrying supplies and the fragment of crystal. The sun was dipping low in the sky, casting long shadows across the valley. Alex and Lyra made their way back to their shelter, cautious of the growing darkness. Along the path, they encountered smaller creatures, some curious, some cautious. Alex used his flare and improvised traps to keep them at a safe distance, while Lyra's knowledge of the forest helped them navigate safely. Night fell, and the alien world transformed again. Bioluminescent plants glowed softly, casting an eerie yet beautiful light. Alex and Lyra sat by a small fire, examining the crystal fragment. It emitted a gentle hum, a subtle vibration that resonated with the surrounding energy. Alex speculated that it could power devices, perhaps even the Artemis if he could harness it properly. Lyra listened, nodding with interest, her eyes reflecting the flickering flames. Sleep came slowly. The alien world was alive with sounds, soft rustles, distant calls, and the subtle hum of energy from the crystal fragment. Alex kept one eye open, thinking about the challenges that lay ahead. They had survived storms, predators, and an alien forest, but the planet was vast, and the dangers were far from over. Yet with Lyra by his side, he felt a growing confidence. Together, they had overcome obstacles that would have been impossible alone. The following morning, they set out to explore one of the glowing points indicated on the holographic map. The journey was challenging. Thick forests, steep cliffs, and rivers blocked their path, but they adapted. Alex fashioned simple tools to bridge gaps and climb safely, while Lyra scouted ahead, identifying safe routes and potential hazards. Their coordination was improving, each learning the other's strengths and weaknesses. After hours of trekking, they reached a plateau overlooking a massive structure in the distance. It appeared to be another ruin, larger than the one they had explored, with towering spires and walls covered in intricate carvings. Alex's heart raced at the sight. "This might be the main complex," he said, awe in his voice. Lyra's eyes reflected the same mix of excitement and caution. She made a sound that suggested this place was important, possibly sacred. They approached carefully, noting the presence of alien wildlife around the structure. Alex used a small scanner from his pack to detect movement. Several creatures were nearby, but none appeared immediately hostile. Lyra gestured for him to move slowly, and together they entered the ruin through a side entrance partially hidden by vines. Inside, the structure was magnificent. Columns stretched toward the ceiling, and walls were adorned with carvings depicting life, energy, and technology. Alex ran his hands along a panel that seemed functional, wires faintly glowing under his touch. He realized this complex might hold more than resources. It could contain knowledge, perhaps even a way to contact other life forms. Hours passed as they explored. Alex carefully documented the layout, noting energy sources, possible hazards, and structural weaknesses. Lyra guided him, pointing out symbols and mechanisms he could not decipher. In one chamber, they found a large crystal array, similar to the fragment they had collected. Alex examined it, realizing that it was part of a larger energy network. "If I can connect our fragment here," he said, "we might generate enough energy to power a device for communication." Lyra's eyes brightened. She gestured for him to proceed carefully, emphasizing balance and caution. Alex followed her advice, placing the crystal fragment into a recess in the array. A soft hum filled the chamber as energy flowed, illuminating symbols on the walls. Alex's mind raced with possibilities. This was not just survival, it was a chance to reach beyond this planet, perhaps even contact his home world. As night fell outside, they decided to rest within the ruin. Alex reinforced a small area with vines and portable barriers, creating a temporary safe zone. Lyra sat beside him, her presence a comforting reminder that they were not alone. The alien world was still dangerous, but together they had unlocked something remarkable. Sleep came easier this night. Alex felt a sense of accomplishment and hope. They had survived storms, predators, and the mysteries of the forest. Now, they had discovered ancient technology that could change everything, yet he knew the journey was far from over. The planet's secrets were vast, and the challenges ahead would test their skills, courage, and trust in each other. When dawn broke, they prepared to explore deeper into the complex. Alex checked their supplies and tools while Lyra scanned the surroundings for threats. Together they moved forward with a sense of purpose. Every step, every discovery, and every shared challenge strengthened their bond. They were no longer just a human engineer and an alien woman. They were partners, united by survival and curiosity. As they ventured further, Alex realized that the planet had more to teach him than any star chart or engineering manual ever could. Lyra's instincts, combined with his knowledge and creativity, made them a formidable team. The alien world was unpredictable and dangerous, but it was also full of wonder, opportunity, and lessons about resilience, trust, and cooperation. For the first time since the crash, Alex felt that survival was not just about staying alive. It was about understanding, learning, and building something meaningful, even in the most alien of places. And with Lyra by his side, he knew that they could face whatever challenges this world had in store. The morning air was crisp, carrying the faint metallic scent of the alien forest. Alex and Lyra stood atop a rocky ridge, overlooking the sprawling ruins they had explored the previous day. From this vantage point, the valley appeared even more vast, with mist curling over crystal rivers and alien vegetation, stretching as far as the eye could see. The hum of the crystal arrays in the ruins echoed faintly in the distance, a reminder of the potential power hidden within this world. Alex adjusted the straps of his backpack, filled with tools, notes, and the crystal fragment they had discovered. "Today we find a way off this planet," he said, more to himself than to Lyra. She tilted her head, her expression serious yet determined, as if acknowledging the plan without words. Their journey had brought them through storms, predators, and the mysteries of alien ruins, but now the goal was clear. Survival was no longer enough. They needed rescue. They descended the ridge carefully, following a path that Lyra indicated with subtle gestures. The terrain was treacherous, steep cliffs and dense vegetation challenging each step. Alex used a grappling hook and makeshift bridges to cross gaps, while Lyra leapt effortlessly from stone to stone, guiding him toward safer passages. Despite the difficulties, they moved with a shared rhythm, a silent understanding formed through days of collaboration and trust. As they approached a river wider than any they had crossed before, Alex paused. The current was strong, and the water shimmered with faint light, hinting at hidden dangers beneath the surface. He tested the bank with a sturdy stick, probing for stability. "We'll need a raft," he muttered. Lyra pointed to a collection of large, buoyant reeds along the riverbank. With her guidance, Alex fashioned a simple raft, binding the reeds. together with vines and scraps of rope salvaged from the Artemis. The crossing was slow and careful. The current tugged at the raft, and Alex had to use a long pole to steer them safely across. Lyra balanced with practiced ease, her eyes scanning the river for obstacles. Midway across, a shadow moved beneath the water, a predator, perhaps, drawn by the motion. Alex froze, heart pounding, but Lyra gestured calmly, signaling him to keep moving. They reached the opposite bank safely, hearts racing, but with a growing confidence in their ability to face the planet's dangers together. After the river, they entered a dense forest where light barely penetrated the thick canopy. Strange fungi glowed softly, casting eerie shadows across the mossy ground. Alex noted the unique energy patterns, suspecting that the planet itself might have a subtle network of life energy. Lyra moved silently ahead, pointing to plants that could be eaten and marking paths that would lead them safely to higher ground. Each step reinforced their partnership, human innovation and alien instinct working in harmony. Hours later, they arrived at a plateau overlooking a vast canyon. Across the canyon, in the distance, Alex spotted something that made his heart leap, a faint, moving structure, metallic and angular. Could it be another human ship? Or some form of communication device left by explorers long ago? Lyra observed it carefully, her gestures indicating that this place was important, perhaps sacred to her people. They descended into the canyon cautiously, using vines and rocks to navigate the steep cliffs. The closer they got, the clearer the structure became. It was partially buried, with panels and antennas jutting out at odd angles. Alex's mind raced with possibilities. If he could reactivate it, they might have a chance to contact human space and call for rescue. Lyra stayed close, helping him lift debris and clear pathways. Inside the structure, Alex found a control panel partially powered by the crystal energy they had collected. He connected their fragment to the system, and the console hummed to life. Symbols and lights flickered, displaying a star map with several points marked in red. Alex realized this was a communication beacon, likely left by explorers or the ancient civilization itself. Excitement surged through him, but he remained cautious. Lyra's eyes scanned the shadows, warning him of potential dangers even within the structure. As Alex worked to calibrate the device, a low growl echoed from outside. Lyra stiffened, motioning for him to stay still. The growl grew louder, followed by the heavy thud of footsteps. Outside, a massive predator emerged, a towering creature with multiple limbs and glowing eyes drawn by the vibrations and activity inside the structure. Alex's mind raced. They had faced predators before, but this one was larger, faster, and more dangerous than anything they had encountered. Thinking quickly, Alex activated a small defensive mechanism he had improvised, a flare launcher modified from the Artemis. He aimed carefully, and a bright flare shot into the air, momentarily blinding the creature. Lyra used the distraction to nudge a heavy panel, partially sealing the entrance. The predator growled in frustration, its glowing eyes scanning for movement. Alex and Lyra held their breath, waiting for the danger to pass. After tense minutes, the predator moved away, its curiosity sated for the moment. Alex exhaled, feeling a surge of relief. Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder, a silent gesture of support and acknowledgement. Together they had survived again, combining quick thinking, technology, and instinct. With the immediate danger gone, Alex focused on the beacon. He adjusted the crystal fragment, aligning it with the energy flow in the structure. Lights pulsed rhythmically and a low hum resonated through the canyon. Finally, a signal was sent, a burst of communication into the stars carrying their coordinates and a plea for rescue. They waited, watching the beacon's lights flicker. Hours passed, the alien sun dipping below the horizon and casting long shadows across the canyon. As night fell, the planet's bioluminescent flora glowed softly, illuminating their surroundings. Alex and Lyra sat together, sharing a simple meal of roots and edible plants. Words were few, but understanding was deep. They had survived storms, predators, and treacherous terrain. Now, hope had returned. In the early hours of the morning, a distant hum reached their ears. Alex's heart leapt. Could it be? He whispered. Lyra's eyes widened, scanning the sky. The sound grew louder, mechanical, and steady. In the distance, a human spacecraft emerged, its lights cutting through the violet sky. Rescue had arrived. They made their way carefully to the landing zone. Alex signaled with a reflective panel, guiding the ship toward them. Lyra stayed close, her presence grounding him. As the spacecraft descended, they could see the crew, humans, waving and preparing to assist. Alex felt a surge of relief and gratitude. They had survived together. The spacecraft touched down gently and a team approached with supplies and equipment. Alex and Lyra climbed aboard, careful not to disturb their precious crystal fragment. The crew examined the beacon and the ruins, clearly amazed by the advanced technology and the potential of the planet. Alex explained their journey, gesturing to Lyra and describing the challenges they had faced. Lyra made soft sounds, gesturing in her own language, and the crew watched with fascination, realizing the depth of her understanding and her role in their survival. As the ship ascended, leaving the alien world behind, Alex looked down at the landscape. The forests, rivers, and ruins stretched out endlessly, a reminder of the challenges they had overcome. Lyra stood beside him, her hand brushing against his. Words were not needed. They had faced the impossible together, and their bond had grown beyond survival. Back aboard the ship, Alex began documenting everything: the planet, the flora and fauna, the ruins, and the crystal energy network. Lyra assisted, using gestures and symbols to clarify details. Together they created a record not just of the planet, but of their partnership, their ingenuity, and their courage. The journey home would take weeks, but hope filled their hearts. Alex knew that humanity's reach into the stars was just beginning, and that alliances, human and alien, could achieve incredible things. Lyra, once wary of humans, had trusted Alex, and in turn, he had relied on her knowledge and instincts. Their survival was a testament to the power of cooperation, resilience, and understanding across worlds. As they drifted through space, Alex reflected on the lessons of the alien world. Survival was more than endurance. It was observation, learning, and adaptation. The human spirit, combined with the wisdom of another species, had overcome challenges that seemed insurmountable. And in that survival, something greater had been discovered, a bond between two beings from entirely different worlds, a partnership that neither would forget. Lyra gazed out the viewport, watching the stars streak past. Alex placed a hand gently on hers, feeling the weight of their journey. They had faced storms, predators, and ancient mysteries, yet emerged alive, stronger, and wiser. The alien world behind them had tested them in every way, and they had passed together. The final scene of the journey saw the Artemis repaired, the beacon successfully transmitting signals for rescue, and Alex and Lyra sitting side by side, sharing a quiet moment of reflection. The alien world had been unforgiving, strange, and dangerous, but it had also shown the resilience of life, the power of trust, and the potential for cooperation across species. For Alex and Lyra, the adventure was over, but the memory of the alien world, the challenges they had faced, and the bond they had formed would remain forever. Humanity's courage and ingenuity had triumphed, but so had empathy, trust, and the understanding that survival was never a solo effort.